Alright, September 15, 2020, day 193. We're listening to some Moving with Nancy. She's my girl, Nancy Sinatra. She's my favorite. I have about 3 or 4 of her records, or vinyls I guess they're called. I'm pretty new to all this stuff. We're going to review Malorie, and then all the other Josh Malerman books I've read. So it's going to be Malorie and Josh Malerman in general review. If you have read Bird Box and you are going to read the sequel, you want to know how it ends, then stop this video because it's going to be spoilers. I suggest don't read it and listen to what I have to say because you don't want to read it and ruin Bird Box for you. With that being said, Bird Box I read when I was about 21. I worked as a maintenance tech for a factory at night. If you've ever worked at a factory, you know that maintenance people have days where they don't have to fix anything and they just sit around and do nothing. That was me. When I sat around and did nothing, I read. So I read quite a lot during that period of my life. And I had just finished a book and I was running very late to meet up with my coworker that I carpooled with. And when I say running late, I was literally running because I lived a couple blocks away from the library. So I was running to the library to meet up with my coworker there so that I can pick up a book. So I ran through the doors of the library, picked up the first book I could find, and checked it out. Got in the car, and while he was yelling at me because I was going to make him late, I was looking at the book I had picked up, and it was called Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I was like, what? And then I looked at the back, it was horror. I was like, I've never read a horror book before. I'm not going to like this. My first break, I read like the 30 first pages, and it was awesome. I was hooked already. It's such a very easy read. It takes place in 2 different time periods. The present with Malorie, the main character's name is Malorie, is rowing down a river with a blindfold on, and she's got 2 kids who also have blindfolds on, and you're like, wow, what's going on? And then it goes in the past like 5 or 6 years. Oh, my music stopped. That's how long I've been trying to make this video. It literally went through the entire vinyl. Alright, so in the past, as I was saying in the past, they start seeing the news and people are going insane for some reason in Russia, and then it starts getting closer to America, and she lives in Michigan, and then she sees it happen outside her window, and she's freaking out, of course. So people are starting to wear blindfolds and putting paint all over their windows and literally quarantining themselves for real, not like our 2020 quarantine when we just want to be home and make an excuse to be home. That was me. It jumps back and forth between those time periods, and it's such a good book. It's very interesting. You don't know what's actually out there because you literally can't see it. It's creepy because Josh Malerman has to write this horror with not using his eyes, but the way that Malorie feels or senses or smells. It's just an interesting book, and I was addicted. So I picked up other Josh Malerman books. The first one called Black Mad Wheel, which was very disappointing, but instead of sight, he used ears, and then there was a noise in Africa that was making people go crazy or whatever, so they sent a band, literally like I sing and then I'm a band. They sent an entire band out there to figure out what was going on, and the book starts with this guy waking up in a hospital with every single one of his bones broken. And I'm trying to think how many bones, I can't remember. Something 206, whatever. And oh man, that's gonna be embarrassing. And then he's bruised from head to toe, and then that time period is him healing from his wounds, and then it flips to the past when he's in Africa and he's going through the desert or whatever, and it's just not very interesting. The ending fell flat. I gave it a 3 out of 5, I think. And then the next book I read was Unbury Carol. This one was interesting. It wasn't horror, but it made me jump back on the Josh Malerman train. And so Carol has this illness where she goes into a coma for an uncertain amount of time randomly throughout her life, like once a year or whatever. And if a doctor like reads her pulse, he won't feel anything. So he would call her dead. So only the family members know about this, so that they keep it secret because people will take advantage of it, right? She marries a dude, and then the dude kind of like starts not liking her anymore. So then he's like, hey, she's rich because she's from a rich family. I'm going to take advantage of this illness and then act like she died and then bury her and then get all the riches. And Carol had a ex-lover that is a thief, robber, whatever. This happens in the old Western times. And he has to travel all the way up from the way southern town to the way northern town where Carol lives through a trail that takes a few weeks to get through. And he's retired. He was a big deal back in the day. And when he starts, and then when he starts again, people are like freaking out, like, hey, this guy's back at business. What's going on? And it was pretty interesting. And then there's a sweet villain. Josh Malerman doesn't do character work very well, but his villain on this book was very well done and it was very interesting. I think I gave it a 3.6 out of 5. It's not a book I'd suggest to people, but it was a good read. It was interesting. It made me think now and then. And then a year ago, I realized that Josh Malerman was writing a sequel for Bird Box, and I was so excited. Oh! And then I found out it was released like a week before I went to vacation. So the day before I went up to Minnesota to fish, I went to Barnes & Noble and bought a book there. $28, most I've ever spent on one book. And that's this. It's only 280 pages. That's very short. And first 2/3 of this book was pretty interesting. There's a couple scenes that were pretty horrifying to read. They didn't grip me like Bird Box did. And so I was a little worried about it, but I was like, if it ends well, I'm gonna still love this series. The ending was so bad. The spoiler alerts for the ending of this book. So throughout this book, it was Malorie like meets people, and they've been trying different ways to see that monster that's out there. Like they look at it underwater, they tie each other to a tree for 10 days, and then if you're sane, they cut them loose. They take video cameras and record the outside, and then they watched a video of it, and all their pretty intelligent trials fail. But Malorie's boy, who I hated throughout the book, I hated the boy and Malorie in this book. The character work in this book was just awful. And the boy had invented this glass from a one-way mirror where you can look at it one way, look through it in one way, and then the other way it's just a mirror. He made glasses out of them so that the monster, when they look at you, they see a reflection of themselves. And the reasoning and the logic behind why these would work was so awful. And I was thinking, this is 13 years after the Bird Box. No one has tried that in 13 years after experimenting with all these other crazier, stupider ideas. And then this one 15 or 13-year-old kid just comes up with this idea. And it just didn't make any sense. It fell flat. And now it had such a happy ending that everybody's alive. Malorie's parents are alive. Malorie's kids are alive. She gets revenge on the guy named... What was his name? Greg? Anyways, she gets revenge. Everything went well. And I just don't believe it. If you lived in this world, there's no way that many people would have survived. And I walk by it every day, and I just get angrier and angrier looking at this book. It ruined Bird Box for me. I've read that book twice, and now I even own it, but I don't even want to look at it. Because I loved it so. It's on par with Game of Thrones Season 8. That's how disappointed I was. And that's pretty bad. That's the ending, I guess. Please don't read this book. What else can I say? Toodaloo. Have a good day. Bye.